The hospital bracelet around Keisha's wrist felt heavier than the wedding ring she once wore. She sat in the cold waiting room, her hand resting on her growing belly, watching the news report on the television mounted high on the wall. There was her husband Marcus Sterling, billionaire tech mogul, standing next to a beautiful blonde woman in a designer dress. The reporter's voice cut through the air like glass. Marcus Sterling announces his engagement to socialite Victoria Hamilton, just 3 months after his divorce was finalized. The couple plans to marry next spring in what promises to be the wedding of the century. Keisha's breath caught in her throat. 3 months. It had been exactly 3 months since Marcus had her escorted out of their mansion by security guards, claiming she was unstable and dangerous. 3 months since he filed for divorce, painting her as a gold digger who had trapped him into marriage. 3 months since he told the world she had cheated on him, when the truth was so much darker. The baby kicked inside her as if sensing her distress. She was 7 months pregnant with Marcus's child, a child he didn't even know existed. When she had tried to tell him about the pregnancy, he had already changed all his phone numbers. His lawyers had blocked her from contacting him directly. The restraining order he had filed made sure she couldn't get within 100 feet of him or any of his properties. Mrs. Williams? A nurse called her name. She had gone back to using her maiden name after the divorce. Keisha stood slowly, her back aching from the cheap plastic chair. The free clinic wasn't what she was used to, but it was all she could afford now. Marcus had made sure she left the marriage with nothing. His team of expensive lawyers had found ways around the prenup, claiming she had violated the marriage contract by her supposed infidelity. She followed the nurse down a long hallway lined with motivational posters that felt mocking in their cheerfulness. "Everything is going to be fine," one read, showing a sunrise over mountains. Keisha almost laughed at the cruel irony. In the examination room, Dr. Patel smiled warmly as she entered. He was one of the few people who still treated her with kindness, even though he knew who she used to be. The local news had covered her fall from grace extensively, painting her as the villain in Marcus's story. "How are we feeling today, Keisha?" Dr. Patel asked, washing his hands at the small sink. "Tired," she admitted, settling onto the examination table. "And angry." Dr. Patel nodded understandingly as he prepared the ultrasound machine. Anger can be exhausting, especially when you're growing a human being. As the gel touched her belly and the familiar whooshing sound of her baby's heartbeat filled the room, Keisha felt a fierce protectiveness wash over her. This child would never know the man who had abandoned them both before they were even born. This child would never experience the kind of betrayal she had endured. "Your daughter is healthy and strong," Dr. Patel said, pointing to the screen. "Her heart rate is perfect." "Daughter?" Keisha's eyes filled with tears. She had asked not to know the gender before, but somehow hearing it now felt right. "Yes, you're having a little girl." Dr. Patel handed her tissues. "Have you thought about names?" Keisha wiped her eyes, thinking of her grandmother who had raised her after her parents died. Her grandmother who had worked 3 jobs to put her through business school. Her grandmother who had believed in her when no one else would. "Zara," she said quietly. "Her name will be Zara." After the appointment, Keisha walked slowly to the bus stop. The cold October wind cut through her thin jacket, and she pulled it tighter around her body. She had sold most of her designer clothes months ago to pay for rent and food. The small apartment she now called home was in a rough neighborhood, nothing like the luxury she had once known. As she waited for the bus, her phone buzzed with a text from her only remaining friend, Lisa, who worked as a reporter for a small local paper. "Did you see the news about Marcus and Victoria? I'm so sorry, Kay. Call me if you need to talk." Keisha stared at the message for a long moment before deleting it. She couldn't afford to be weak anymore. She couldn't afford to cry or feel sorry for herself. She had a daughter to think about now. The bus arrived 20 minutes late, packed with tired people heading home from work. Keisha found a seat near the back and closed her eyes, trying to block out the noise and smell of the crowded vehicle. She thought about the ultrasound picture in her purse, the first photo of her daughter. Marcus had destroyed her reputation, taken her money, and cast her out like garbage. But he had made one crucial mistake. He had underestimated her. He thought he had broken her completely, left her with nothing and no way to fight back. But Keisha Williams had not survived poverty, racism, and a broken foster care system by being weak. She had not earned her MBA from Harvard by giving up when things got hard. And she certainly wasn't going to let Marcus Sterling destroy her daughter's future. As the bus pulled up to her stop, Keisha made a silent promise to the child growing inside her. She would find a way to give her daughter everything she deserved. She would find a way to make Marcus pay for what he had done. And she would make sure that when her daughter was old enough to understand, she would know that her mother had never stopped fighting for her. The apartment building where she now lived was a far cry from the Sterling mansion, but it was hers. No one could take it away from her because she had paid for it with her own money, the small amount she had managed to hide in a secret account before Marcus's lawyers could find it. Walking up the 3 flights of stairs to her apartment, Keisha felt the baby kick again, stronger this time. She smiled despite everything. Her daughter was a fighter too. The eviction notice was bright pink and impossible to ignore, taped to Keisha's apartment door like a cruel joke. She stared at it for a full minute before her hands started shaking. 3 days. She had 3 days to come up with 2 months' rent or she and her unborn daughter would be homeless. Keisha fumbled with her keys, her pregnant belly making it hard to reach the lock. Inside the small apartment, she sank onto the second-hand couch and buried her face in her hands. The baby was due in 6 weeks and she had nowhere to go. Her savings account was empty. The part-time job at the grocery store barely covered food and bus fare. The landlord, Mr. Hernandez, had been patient for 2 months, but his patience had run out. She couldn't blame him. He had his own family to feed. The phone rang, startling her. She almost didn't answer, assuming it was another debt collector, but the caller ID showed Lisa's number. "Hey girl," Lisa's voice was gentle. "I've been thinking about you. How are you holding up?" Keisha almost lied, almost said she was fine like she always did. But looking at the eviction notice, she realized she was past the point of pride. "Lisa, I'm about to lose my apartment." The words came out in a rush. "I don't know what to do. The baby's coming soon and I have nowhere to go." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then Lisa said, "Pack your things. You're staying with me." "Lisa, I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm telling. My couch is more comfortable than the street, and my nephew left some baby stuff when he moved out. Pack your things, Keisha. I'm coming to get you." 2 hours later, Keisha was sitting in Lisa's small but clean apartment, drinking tea and trying not to cry from relief. Lisa lived alone in a 1-bedroom place across town, and while it wasn't much bigger than Keisha's old apartment, it felt like a palace compared to being homeless. "Thank you," Keisha whispered for the 10th time. "Stop thanking me," Lisa said firmly. "You do the same for me and you know it." Lisa worked nights at the newspaper, covering late-breaking stories and police reports. During the day she tried to write freelance articles to make extra money. She wasn't rich, but she was stable, and right now, stability was all Keisha needed. "I've been thinking," Lisa said, settling into the chair across from Keisha, "about your situation with Marcus. There has to be something we can do." Keisha shook her head. "His lawyers made sure I can't touch him. The restraining order, the divorce settlement, everything was designed to keep me away and keep me quiet." "But what about the baby? Doesn't he have a right to know?" "What right?" Keisha's voice was bitter. "The right to deny she's his? The right to claim I'm trying to trap him again? He made it clear he never wanted children with me." Lisa was quiet for a moment. "Do you remember when we were in college and you used to talk about starting your own business?" Keisha almost laughed. "That was a lifetime ago, Lisa. I was naive then. Were you? Or were you just young and optimistic?" Lisa leaned forward. "You had good ideas, Keisha. Really good ideas. What happened to that business plan you wrote for your senior project?" "It's somewhere in my old laptop, I think." "Why?" "Because I think you gave up too easily." Keisha felt a flash of anger. "I didn't give up. I got married to Marcus and he wanted me to focus on being his wife. Then he destroyed my life." "Exactly. He destroyed the life he wanted you to have. But he can't destroy the person you were before you met him." That night, while Lisa worked her shift at the newspaper, Keisha sat on the couch with her old laptop, searching through files she hadn't opened in years. Finally, she found it, her senior business plan for a company that would help small businesses with digital marketing and social media management. Reading through it now, she was surprised by how detailed and well-researched it was. She had identified a real problem and created a practical solution. The plan was solid, but it would require startup money she didn't have and clients who would trust the disgraced ex-wife of a billionaire. But as she read, ideas began to form. The business world had changed a lot in the past few years. Social media was more important than ever, and small businesses were struggling to keep up. Maybe there was still a market for her ideas. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For a moment, her heart raced, thinking it might be Marcus. But the message was from someone else entirely. "Ms. Williams, this is Janet Chin from Chin & Associates PR. I represent several small businesses who might be interested in your services. Could we meet?" Keisha stared at the message, confused. What services? She hadn't advertised anything or put herself out there as available for work. She typed back carefully, I think you may have the wrong person. I'm not currently offering any business services. The response came quickly, you're Keisha Williams, former wife of Marcus Sterling? You have an MBA from Harvard and experience in marketing. Yes, but... Then I have the right person. I've been following your story in the news. A lot of people think you got a raw deal. Some of us believe you might be exactly what our clients need. Can we meet tomorrow? Keisha's hands were shaking as she typed her response. Yes. Where and when? The next morning, Keisha sat in a small coffee shop downtown, wearing the most professional outfit she still owned. Janet Chin was a small, energetic woman who got straight to the point. I represent 5 small businesses, Janet said, sliding a folder across the table. They're all struggling with their online presence. They need someone who understands marketing but doesn't charge corporate rates. Keisha opened the folder and saw information about a family restaurant, a small construction company, a boutique clothing store, a pet grooming business, and a local bakery. Why me? Keisha asked. My reputation is. Your reputation with rich people is damaged, Janet interrupted. But these aren't rich people. These are working families who think you got screwed over by your powerful ex-husband. They want to help you and they need help themselves. Keisha looked at the numbers Janet had provided. The pay wasn't much, but it was something. More importantly, it was a start. I'd need to work from home, Keisha said. The baby is due soon. That's fine. Most of this work can be done remotely anyway. As Keisha walked back to Lisa's apartment, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. Her daughter would be born into struggle but not into hopelessness. That evening, as she felt her daughter moving inside her, Keisha made another promise. She would build something from nothing. She would prove that Marcus Sterling had made a mistake when he threw her away. And someday, when her daughter was old enough to understand, she would see that her mother had never stopped fighting. The contractions started at 3 in the morning, 2 weeks before Keisha's due date. She woke up on Lisa's couch with a sharp pain in her back and the sudden realization that her water had broken. Lisa, she called out, trying to keep the panic out of her voice. Lisa appeared in the doorway instantly, already reaching for her keys. Is it time? I think so. Another contraction hit, stronger than the first. Oh God, this is really happening. The ride to the hospital was a blur of pain and fear. Keisha gripped Lisa's hand in the passenger seat, breathing through contractions while Lisa drove through the empty streets at 4 in the morning. You're going to be okay, Lisa kept saying. Both of you are going to be okay. At the hospital, everything moved quickly. Nurses, doctors, machines, bright lights. Keisha found herself in a delivery room with Dr. Patel, who had somehow been called in despite the early hour. Your daughter is eager to meet the world, he said with a smile. Are you ready to meet her? 8 hours later, Keisha held her daughter in her arms for the first time. Zara Williams was tiny but perfect, with a full head of dark hair and her mother's determined chin. She looked up at Keisha with dark, serious eyes that seemed to take in everything around her. Hello, baby girl, Keisha whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm your mama and I love you so much. Lisa stood beside the hospital bed, crying almost as hard as Keisha. She's beautiful, Kay. She looks just like you. Looking down at her daughter, Keisha felt a strength she had never known she possessed. This tiny person was depending on her completely. Everything she did from now on would be for Zara. The next few weeks were exhausting but wonderful. Zara was a good baby, sleeping for decent stretches and only crying when she was hungry or needed changing. Keisha worked on her laptop while Zara napped, building websites and managing social media accounts for Janet Chen's clients. The work was going better than she had expected. The restaurant's online orders had increased by 30% after she redesigned their website. The construction company was getting more calls after she helped them with their Google presence. Word was starting to spread about her services. You're getting a reputation, Lisa said one evening, watching Keisha work while Zara slept in her arms. Janet called me today. She has 3 more businesses that want to hire you. Keisha looked up from her laptop. Really? Really? And Keisha? One of them offered to pay double your usual rate. They specifically asked for you by name. That night, after Lisa had gone to work and Zara was sleeping peacefully in her crib, Keisha allowed herself to dream a little. Maybe she could actually make this work. Maybe she could build a real business, something stable and successful. Her phone buzzed with an email from a potential new client. But when she opened it, her blood ran cold. The email was from Marcus Sterling's assistant, requesting a meeting to discuss digital marketing services for Sterling Enterprises. Keisha stared at the screen, her heart pounding. Was this some kind of joke? Some new way for Marcus to torment her? The restraining order was still in effect. She wasn't supposed to have any contact with him or his companies. She closed the laptop without responding and went to check on Zara. Her daughter was sleeping peacefully, one small fist curled near her cheek. Looking at her, Keisha felt her resolve strengthen. Whatever game Marcus was playing, she wouldn't let it hurt her daughter. The next morning she called Janet Chin. "I got a strange email," Keisha said. "From Sterling Enterprises. They want to hire me." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then Janet said, "That is strange. Did you respond?" "No. I can't have any contact with Marcus because of the restraining order." "But this isn't from Marcus directly," Janet pointed out. "It's from his company. That might be different legally." "I don't care if it's legal. I don't want anything to do with him or his business." "Keisha, can I give you some advice?" "Of course. Don't let him control your business decisions. If Sterling Enterprises wants to hire you, it's because you're good at what you do. Don't give him the power to limit your success." After hanging up, Keisha thought about Janet's words. She looked at Zara, who was awake and staring at the ceiling fan with fascination. "What do you think, baby girl?" she asked. "Should Mama take the job that might help us build something bigger?" Zara made a small sound that might have been agreement. That afternoon, Keisha responded to the email, requesting more details about the project and making it clear that all communication would need to go through intermediaries due to legal restrictions. The response came within an hour. Sterling Enterprises wanted help with social media management for their smaller subsidiary companies. The pay was substantial, more than all her other clients combined. The work could be done entirely remotely, and they were willing to sign a contract that would guarantee 6 months of steady work. Keisha stared at the offer for a long time. It felt like a trap, but it also felt like an opportunity. With this contract, she could afford her own apartment. She could buy Zara everything she needed. She could start saving for the future. "I don't understand it either," she told Lisa that evening. "Why would Marcus's company want to hire me?" "Maybe Marcus doesn't know," Lisa suggested. "Big companies have lots of departments. Maybe someone in marketing just knows you do good work. Or maybe it's some elaborate plan to humiliate me. Or maybe," Lisa said, bouncing Zara gently, "the universe is finally giving you a break." That night, Keisha made her decision. She would take the contract, but she would be careful. She would do excellent work, build her reputation, and use the money to create something better for her and Zara. As she signed the contract on her laptop, Zara sleeping peacefully beside her, Keisha felt like she was signing more than just a business agreement. She was signing a declaration of independence from the woman she used to be, the woman who had let Marcus Sterling define her worth. From now on she would define herself. 6 months later, Keisha was working 16-hour days and loving every minute of it. The Sterling Enterprises contract had been exactly what she needed to launch her business properly. She had moved into a small but comfortable apartment with Zara, hired 2 part-time employees, and was managing social media for 15 different companies. "Mama's building an empire," she told Zara, who was now sitting up on her own and showing signs of wanting to crawl. "And someday it's all going to be yours." The success had come faster than she had expected. Her work for Sterling's subsidiary companies had been so effective that other businesses started reaching out to her directly. She had increased online sales for a struggling bookstore by 200%. She had helped a local gym triple their membership through targeted social media campaigns. Her reputation was growing, and with it, her confidence. Lisa had been promoted to day shift reporter and was working on bigger stories. She still lived in her small apartment, but now she was saving money for a house. Success was changing both their lives. "You should see the article I'm working on," Lisa said one evening, playing with Zara while Keisha worked. "It's about small businesses that have thrived during tough economic times. Guess whose company is featured?" Keisha looked up from her laptop. "Mine? Yours? I interviewed 3 of your clients and they all said the same thing: you saved their businesses." That night, after Lisa had gone home and Zara was asleep, Keisha allowed herself to feel proud of what she had accomplished. In less than a year, she had gone from being homeless and pregnant to running a successful business. She was supporting herself and her daughter without anyone's help. Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize. "Hello? Ms. Williams? This is Robert Kim from Kim Investments. I've been following your business and I'd like to discuss a potential partnership." Keisha sat up straighter. Kim Investments was a major venture capital firm. She had heard of Robert Kim, He was known for investing in innovative small businesses and helping them grow into major companies. "I'm listening," she said. "I'd like to offer you funding to expand your business. We're talking about enough money to hire a full staff, open a real office, and take on corporate clients. Are you interested in meeting?" Keisha's heart was racing. "Yes, I'm very interested." They arranged to meet the following week at Kim's downtown office. After hanging up, Keisha sat in her quiet apartment, hardly believing what had just happened. A major investor wanted to give her money to grow her business. The meeting with Robert Kim went better than she had hoped. He was impressed with her client results and her business model. More importantly, he understood her vision for the future. "I see you building something much bigger than social media management," he said, looking over her business plan. "I see you creating a full-service digital marketing firm that specializes in helping small and medium-sized businesses compete with larger companies." "That's exactly what I want to do," Keisha said. "Good. Because that's exactly what I want to fund." The investment offer was substantial. Enough money to lease office space, hire a full staff, and really compete in the digital marketing world. In exchange, Kim would take a minority stake in the company and provide business mentorship. "There's one condition," Kim said. "I want you to think bigger. Don't just focus on local businesses. I want you to go after corporate clients, big contracts, real growth." Keisha thought about it for a moment. "That means competing with established firms that have been in business for decades." "Yes, it does. Are you ready for that challenge?" Looking across the table at Robert Kim, Keisha thought about everything she had been through in the past year. She had survived betrayal, poverty, and single motherhood. She had built a successful business from nothing while caring for an infant. She was ready for any challenge. "Yes," she said. "I'm ready." The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. Keisha signed the partnership agreement with Kim Investments and immediately began expanding. She leased a small office space downtown and hired 5 full-time employees. She brought in Lisa as her head of content creation and communications. "I can't believe this is happening," Lisa said on their first day in the new office. "A year ago you were sleeping on my couch. Now you're running a real company." "We're running a real company," Keisha corrected. "I couldn't do this without you." Zara had her own corner of the office, complete with a playpen and toys. Keisha had interviewed several nannies but decided she wanted to keep her daughter close during these crucial early months of expansion. The first major corporate contract came from an unexpected source. A mid-sized tech company had been following Keisha's work with Sterling's subsidiaries and wanted to hire her firm directly. The contract was worth more than everything else she had earned combined. "This is it," Robert Kim said when she called to tell him about the contract. "This is your breakthrough moment. Do excellent work on this project, and word will spread through the corporate world." Keisha threw herself into the project, working closely with her team to create a comprehensive digital marketing strategy for the tech company. They redesigned the client's website, launched targeted social media campaigns, and implemented an email marketing system that increased customer engagement by 400%. The results were so impressive that the client referred Keisha's firm to 3 other companies. Within 6 months, she was managing digital marketing for 12 corporate clients and had expanded her team to 15 employees. "You're doing something remarkable here," Robert Kim told her during one of their regular check-in meetings. "Your client retention rate is nearly perfect, and your results are consistently exceptional. Have you thought about what comes next?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, at the rate you're growing, you're going to be competing with the biggest marketing firms in the country within a few years. Are you prepared for that level of competition?" Keisha looked out the window of her office at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Marcus Sterling was probably in his corporate tower, making deals and building his empire. He had no idea that the woman he had thrown away like garbage was building something that might one day rival his success. "Yes," she said. "I'm prepared." That evening, as she played with Zara in their comfortable apartment, Keisha felt a satisfaction she had never known during her marriage to Marcus. This success was hers. She had earned it through hard work, intelligence, and determination. No one could take it away from her. Zara was pulling herself up to standing now, getting ready to take her first steps. Soon she would be walking, then talking, then asking questions about her father. Keisha still didn't know how she would handle those conversations, but she knew one thing for certain. Her daughter would grow up knowing that her mother was strong, successful, and independent. Whatever the future held, they would face it together. 2 years after starting her company, Keisha Williams was featured on the cover of Business Weekly magazine. The headline read, "From Poverty to Power, How One Woman Built a Marketing Empire." Inside was a 6-page article about her journey from homeless single mother to successful CEO. Keisha sat in her spacious corner office, reading the article while Zara played with blocks on the carpet nearby. At 18 months old, Zara was walking, talking, and showing signs of the intelligence Keisha hoped she had inherited. "Mama work," Zara said, pointing at the magazine. "Yes, baby. Mama's work." Keisha smiled and picked up her daughter. "And someday this will all be yours." The article had generated massive attention. Keisha's phone had been ringing constantly with interview requests, speaking opportunities, and new business inquiries. Her company, Williams Digital Marketing, now employed 35 people and had annual revenues in the millions. Lisa knocked on the office door and entered with a huge smile. "Have you seen the news coverage?" "What news coverage?" Lisa turned on the wall-mounted television and switched to the local news channel. There was Keisha's photo on the screen, and the anchor was talking about her success story. Local businesswoman Keisha Williams has been named one of the city's top entrepreneurs under 35, the anchor said. Her company has revolutionized digital marketing for small and medium-sized businesses, and she's being recognized as one of the most innovative minds in the industry. Keisha watched in amazement as the story continued, showing footage of her office and interviews with her employees. This was real. She had actually done it. "There's more," Lisa said, changing the channel to a national business network. "You're trending on social media, and 3 different publishers want to offer you book deals." That afternoon, Robert Kim stopped by the office with champagne and congratulations. "You've exceeded every projection we made," he said, raising his glass. "Your company is valued at 10 times what it was when we started this partnership." "What does that mean exactly?" Keisha asked. "It means you're officially a millionaire. Actually, you're officially a multimillionaire." Keisha set down her champagne glass and stared at him. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. If you wanted to sell the company today, you'd walk away with enough money to never work again." That evening, after everyone had gone home and Zara was sleeping peacefully in her crib, Keisha sat alone in her office and thought about how much her life had changed. 3 years ago, she had been married to a billionaire but had no money of her own. Now she was wealthy through her own efforts. Her phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Congratulations on your success. You've come a long way from the woman I married." Keisha stared at the message, her heart pounding. Marcus. After 3 years of silence, he was reaching out to her. She wondered if he had seen the magazine article or the news coverage. She typed and deleted several responses before settling on, "Thank you. I hope you're well." His response came immediately, "I'd like to talk. Can we meet?" Keisha's first instinct was to say no. The restraining order had expired, but she still had no desire to see Marcus Sterling. But then she thought about everything that had happened, everything she had accomplished, and she realized something important. She wasn't afraid of him anymore. "When and where?" she typed. "Tomorrow, lunch at the Riverside Cafe. Just the 2 of us." The next day, Keisha dropped Zara off at daycare and drove to the restaurant. She had chosen her outfit carefully, a professional but elegant dress that showed how successful she had become without being flashy about it. Marcus was already waiting at a corner table when she arrived. He looked older, more tired than she remembered. Success had aged him, while her struggles had made her stronger. "Keisha," he stood as she approached the table. "You look incredible." "Thank you." She sat down across from him, keeping her expression neutral. "You wanted to talk." Marcus seemed nervous, which surprised her. The Marcus she had been married to was never nervous about anything. "I saw the magazine article," he said. "I'm impressed. Really impressed. I'm sure you didn't ask me here just to congratulate me on my success." He laughed, but it sounded forced. "Always straight to the point. I missed that about you." Keisha waited for him to get to his real purpose. "I want to apologize," Marcus said finally, "for how things ended between us. For the things I said and did. I was wrong and I'm sorry." Keisha studied his face, looking for signs of sincerity. "Why now? Why apologize after all this time?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Because I've had time to think about what I lost. Because Victoria and things aren't working out the way I thought they would. So that was it." His perfect new life wasn't so perfect, and now he was feeling nostalgic for what he had thrown away. "I'm sorry to hear that," Keisha said, though she didn't mean it. "Keisha, I want to try again. I want us to try again." She almost laughed out loud. "Marcus, you destroyed my life. You painted me as a liar and a cheat. You made sure I left our marriage with nothing. And now you want to try again? I know I hurt you, but you don't know anything." Keisha's voice was calm but firm. "You have no idea what I went through after you threw me out. You have no idea what it was like to be homeless and pregnant and completely alone. Marcus looked confused. Pregnant? For a moment, Keisha considered telling him about Zara. But then she realized that he had forfeited any right to know about his daughter when he had destroyed their marriage. It doesn't matter now, she said. That's in the past. But we could have a future. Think about it, Keisha. Your business, my resources. We could build something incredible together. Now she did laugh. You mean you could use my business to make yourself look good? You could take credit for my success the way you tried to take credit for everything else when we were married. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. Keisha stood up. Thank you for lunch, Marcus, but I'm not interested in revisiting the past. I have a future to build. As she walked toward the door, Marcus called after her. This isn't over, Keisha. I'm not giving up. Driving back to her office, Keisha felt a cold determination settle over her. Marcus Sterling thought he could waltz back into her life and pick up where he left off. He thought she would be grateful for his attention, impressed by his apology. He was wrong. That evening she called Robert Kim. I want to talk about expansion plans, she said. How big could we really make this company? How big do you want it to be? Keisha looked at the photo on her desk, herself and Zara at the park, both of them laughing at something silly. Her daughter deserved to inherit an empire, not just a successful small business. I want it to be big enough to compete with anyone, she said. I want it to be big enough that when people think about digital marketing, they think about Williams Digital first. That's ambitious. It would mean going head-to-head with some very powerful competitors. Good, Keisha said. I'm ready for a real fight. The expansion of Williams Digital Marketing happened faster than anyone expected. Within 6 months of her lunch with Marcus, Keisha had opened offices in 3 major cities and hired over 100 employees. Her company was no longer just successful, it was becoming dominant in the digital marketing space. You're moving like someone with something to prove, Robert Kim observed during one of their strategy meetings. I do have something to prove, Keisha replied, studying the acquisition proposal on her desk. I want to prove that the best revenge is massive success. The acquisition target was a mid-sized marketing firm that specialized in working with tech companies. If Williams Digital bought them, it would give Keisha direct access to some of Sterling Enterprises' biggest competitors. This is a smart move, Robert Kim said, reviewing the numbers. But it's also expensive. Are you sure you want to take on this much debt? Keisha looked at the financial projections. The acquisition would cost nearly everything she had earned, plus a substantial loan. It was risky, but it was also the fastest way to position her company as a major player in the corporate world. I'm sure, she said. Make the offer. 3 weeks later, Williams Digital Marketing officially acquired TechReach Solutions, instantly doubling the size of the company and adding several Fortune 500 clients to their roster. The business press took notice immediately. Williams Digital Marketing announces major acquisition. Read the headline in the Financial Times. The article described Keisha as an aggressive entrepreneur who isn't afraid to take big risks to achieve rapid growth. At home that evening, Keisha was reading the article aloud to Zara, who was now 2 years old and starting to understand more of what her mother did for work. Mama famous, Zara said, pointing at the newspaper photo. Mama's building something special for us, Keisha said, hugging her daughter. Something that no one can ever take away. The next morning brought news that made Keisha smile. Sterling Enterprises had lost their contract with one of their biggest clients, a tech company that had decided to switch to Williams Digital Marketing instead. Lisa burst into Keisha's office with the news. Did you see? Technocore just dropped Sterling's marketing firm and signed with us. Keisha tried to look surprised. Really? I had no idea they were unhappy with their current firm. Come on, Kay. You poached them and you know it. Keisha smiled. I simply made them a better offer and showed them better results. If Sterling's people can't compete, that's their problem. The truth was, Keisha had been strategically targeting Sterling Enterprises clients for months. Not out of spite, but because she knew Marcus's business practices better than anyone. She knew which clients were unhappy, which contracts were up for renewal, and which companies were looking for better results. Over the next few months, 3 more of Sterling's clients switched to Williams Digital. Each loss had to be costing Marcus millions in revenue. You're playing a dangerous game, Lisa warned during one of their weekly planning meetings. Marcus Sterling isn't going to just sit back and let you steal his clients. I'm not stealing anything, Keisha replied. I'm competing. There's a difference. But Lisa was right to be concerned. 2 days later, Keisha received a call from her lawyer. We have a problem, attorney Sarah Martinez said. Sterling Enterprises is claiming that you're using confidential information you obtained during your marriage to target their clients. They're threatening to sue for corporate espionage. Keisha felt a familiar anger rise in her chest. That's ridiculous. I haven't used any confidential information. I won these clients based on superior work and better results. I believe you, but we need to be prepared. Marcus Sterling has deep pockets and expensive lawyers. If he wants to make this ugly, he can. That afternoon, Keisha called an emergency meeting with her senior staff. She needed to make sure everyone understood what they might be facing. Sterling Enterprises may try to claim that we're using unfair business practices, she told her team. I want everyone to document everything we do. Every client meeting, every proposal, every decision needs to be recorded and justified. Are we in legal trouble? Asked Jake, her head of client services. No, but we might be soon. Marcus Sterling doesn't like losing, and he definitely doesn't like losing to me. Over the weekend, Keisha made a decision that surprised even herself. She called Marcus directly. We need to talk, she said when he answered his phone. I was wondering when you'd call, Marcus replied. You've been busy. Can you meet me tomorrow? Same place as last time. I'll be there. The next day, Keisha arrived at the Riverside Cafe to find Marcus already waiting. This time he looked angry rather than apologetic. You're trying to destroy my business, he said without preamble. I'm trying to build mine, Keisha replied calmly. There's a difference. You're using information you learned during our marriage to target my clients specifically. I'm using my brain and my business skills to identify unhappy clients and offer them better service. If that threatens you, maybe you should look at why your clients are so willing to leave. Marcus leaned forward. This stops now, Keisha. Call off your lawyers, stop targeting my clients, and we can coexist peacefully. Or what? Or I'll make things very difficult for you. I have resources you can't imagine. Keisha studied his face. The man sitting across from her was nothing like the charming businessman she had fallen in love with years ago. This Marcus was desperate and angry, and that made him dangerous. Let me make something clear, she said quietly. You destroyed my life once and I survived it. I built something from nothing while raising our daughter alone. If you think you can intimidate me now, you're more foolish than I thought. Marcus's eyes widened. Our daughter? Keisha realized what she had said. For a moment she considered denying it, but then she decided she was tired of hiding. Yes, our daughter. Zara is 2 years old and she's brilliant and beautiful and everything you'll never deserve to know. Marcus stared at her in shock. You were pregnant when we divorced? I was pregnant when you threw me out like garbage. I tried to tell you, but you had already changed your phone numbers and filed restraining orders. Keisha, You what? You're sorry? You want to meet her? You want to be a father? Keisha's voice was getting louder. You gave up that right when you chose your reputation over your family. She stood up to leave, but Marcus grabbed her arm. You can't keep my daughter from me. I have rights. Keisha looked down at his hand on her arm, then back at his face. Let go of me. Now. He released her immediately. You have no rights, she said coldly. You're not on her birth certificate. You've never supported her financially or emotionally. As far as the law is concerned, you're a stranger. That can be changed. Try it, Keisha said. But remember, Marcus, I'm not the helpless woman you threw away 3 years ago. I have money now, good lawyers, and a very public platform. If you try to hurt me or my daughter, the whole world will know what kind of man you really are. Walking back to her car, Keisha felt her hands shaking. She had finally told Marcus about Zara, and it felt both liberating and terrifying. She knew this wasn't over. Marcus Sterling didn't give up easily, especially not when his pride was involved. That night she called her lawyer. Sarah, I need you to research everything about parental rights in custody cases. Specifically, what happens when a father has never been involved in a child's life. Keisha, what's going on? Marcus Sterling just found out he has a daughter. And I think he's going to try to use her to get back at me. Oh no. Keisha, you need to be very careful. Custody battles can get ugly fast, especially when there's this much money and emotion involved. I know. But I won't let him hurt Zara. She's my whole world, Sarah. I'll do whatever it takes to protect her. As she hung up the phone, Keisha looked in on her sleeping daughter. Zara looked so peaceful, completely unaware that her father had just discovered her existence. I won't let him hurt you, baby girl, Keisha whispered. Mama will always protect you. But even as she made the promise, Keisha knew that the real battle was just beginning. The custody papers arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a process server who seemed apologetic about the whole situation. Keisha stared at the legal documents, her coffee growing cold as she read Marcus's demands. He was requesting joint custody of Zara, claiming that he had been denied the opportunity to be a father due to Keisha's deception. The papers painted her as vindictive and manipulative, someone who had hidden his child out of spite. "This is insane," Lisa said, reading over Keisha's shoulder. "He abandoned you when you were pregnant. He can't just show up now and demand rights." "Apparently he can," Keisha replied, her voice tight with anger. Sarah Martinez arrived at the office within an hour of Keisha's call. The lawyer's expression was grim as she reviewed the custody petition. "This is aggressive," Sarah said. "He's not just asking for visitation rights. He wants joint physical custody, which would mean Zara would live with him half the time. Over my dead body. Keisha, you need to understand something. Marcus Sterling has unlimited resources and a team of the best family lawyers in the country. This is going to be expensive and ugly." "I don't care about expensive. What do I need to do?" Sarah pulled out her notepad. "First, we document everything. Every interaction you've had with Marcus, every attempt you made to contact him during your pregnancy, every way he's failed to support Zara financially or emotionally. I tried to tell him about the pregnancy, but he had blocked all contact." "Good. We'll need proof of that. Phone records, emails, anything that shows you attempted communication." Over the next few days, Keisha threw herself into preparing for the custody battle while trying to maintain some normalcy for Zara. Her daughter was too young to understand what was happening, but she seemed to sense the tension in the house. "Mama sad?" Zara asked one evening, climbing onto Keisha's lap. "Mama's just tired, baby girl. But everything's going to be okay." The first court hearing was scheduled for the following month. In the meantime, Marcus's lawyers were playing hardball, demanding immediate supervised visitation and filing motions to access Keisha's financial records. "They're trying to paint you as someone who used the child to punish Marcus," Sarah explained during one of their strategy sessions. "They want to show that you're financially motivated and vengeful." "What's our strategy?" "We show the truth. That you were abandoned while pregnant, that you've been an excellent single mother, and that Marcus Sterling is only interested in Zara now because his ego has been bruised by your business success." The media attention was intense. Someone had leaked the custody battle to the press, and suddenly Keisha's personal life was front-page news again. "Billionaire Marcus Sterling fights for custody of secret daughter," read the headline in the city's largest newspaper. The article was surprisingly sympathetic to Marcus, portraying him as a father who had been kept from his child by a bitter ex-wife. "This is a nightmare," Keisha told Robert Kim during an emergency meeting. "The publicity is affecting our business. 3 clients have already expressed concerns about the stability of the company. Do you want to settle with him?" Robert asked. "Maybe work out some kind of visitation arrangement?" "No." Keisha's voice was firm. "He doesn't get to waltz back into our lives just because it's convenient for him. He made his choice 3 years ago." But the pressure was mounting from all sides. Marcus's legal team was filing motion after motion, each one designed to paint Keisha as an unfit mother. They claimed she was too focused on her business to properly care for Zara. They questioned her financial stability despite her obvious success. They even suggested that her single-parent household was inherently inferior to what Marcus could provide. The breaking point came when Keisha arrived at Zara's daycare to find photographers waiting outside. "Mama, why are there so many people?" Zara asked, frightened by the crowd of reporters shouting questions. Keisha picked up her daughter and pushed through the crowd, saying nothing to the reporters. But once they were safe in the car, she made a decision. "Sarah, I want to go public with our side of the story." "Keisha, that's risky. Anything you say can be used against you in court. I'm tired of letting Marcus control the narrative. The public deserves to know the truth." Lisa helped Keisha prepare for the interview with Channel 7 News. They went over every possible question, every angle the reporter might take. "Remember," Lisa said, "stay calm, stick to the facts, and don't let them provoke you into saying anything emotional." The interview aired on a Friday evening. Keisha sat across from investigative reporter Monica Chin, looking professional but approachable in a navy blue dress. "Ms. Williams, Marcus Sterling claims that you deliberately hid his daughter from him. How do you respond to that?" "I attempted to contact Marcus multiple times during my pregnancy," Keisha replied calmly. "He had changed his phone numbers, blocked my emails, and obtained a restraining order that prevented me from approaching him or his properties. When I tried to tell him through his lawyers, they refused to pass along the message." "Do you have proof of these attempts to contact him?" "Yes, I do. phone records, emails, and documented attempts to reach him through his legal team. Why didn't you pursue child support? Because I didn't want anything from someone who had made it clear he wanted nothing to do with me. I was determined to raise my daughter independently, and I've succeeded in doing that. Some people might say that keeping a father from his child is unfair, regardless of your personal feelings about him. Keisha paused, choosing her words carefully. A father is someone who participates in raising a child. Someone who provides emotional and financial support. Someone who is present for the difficult moments as well as the happy ones. Marcus Sterling has never been any of those things to Zara. He's only interested in her now because my business success has bruised his ego. The interview was powerful and well received. Public opinion began to shift in Keisha's favor, especially among working mothers who saw themselves in her story. But Marcus wasn't finished. 2 days after the interview aired, Keisha received a call from Sarah with disturbing news. "They're escalating," Sarah said. "Marcus's team has filed a motion claiming that your business activities make you an unfit mother. They're saying that you work too much and don't provide a stable home environment." "That's ridiculous. Zara comes to work with me half the time. She sees exactly how hard work and determination can pay off." "I know, but they're also claiming that your vendetta against Sterling Enterprises shows poor judgment and vindictive behavior that could harm Zara psychologically." Keisha felt her world tilting. "Are they saying I could lose custody?" "They're saying they want primary custody with you getting supervised visitation." That night, Keisha sat in Zara's room watching her daughter sleep. The idea of losing her, of having Zara taken away to live with a man who had never changed a diaper or comforted her during a nightmare, was unbearable. "I won't let them take you," she whispered. "Whatever it takes, I won't let them take you." But for the first time since this battle began, Keisha felt afraid. Marcus Sterling had resources she couldn't match and a legal team that seemed willing to do anything to win. She had built an empire to protect her daughter, but now that empire might be used against her. The real fight was just beginning. Keisha was in her office at 6 in the morning, poring over legal documents and business reports, when she discovered something that changed everything. Hidden in the financial records of one of Marcus's subsidiary companies was evidence of the kind of corporate malfeasance that could destroy a business empire. She had been reviewing old contracts from her Sterling Enterprises work, looking for anything that might help her custody case, when she noticed irregularities in the billing practices of Sterling Financial Services. The subsidiary had been overcharging clients systematically, hiding fees in complicated legal language that most businesses wouldn't catch. "Sarah, you need to see this," Keisha said, calling her lawyer at home despite the early hour. "What did you find?" "Evidence that Marcus's company has been defrauding clients. If this goes public, it won't just hurt his reputation. It could result in criminal charges." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Keisha, you need to be very careful here. If you obtained this information illegally—" "I didn't. These are records from work I did legitimately for Sterling Enterprises 2 years ago. I've had them in my files the whole time. Send me everything. Don't make any copies, don't show anyone else, and for God's sake, don't go public with this yet." An hour later, Sarah was in Keisha's office, reviewing the documents with the intensity of a detective solving a murder case. "This is bad," Sarah said finally. "Really bad. If these billing practices are still going on, Sterling Financial Services could face massive lawsuits and regulatory action." "Good," Keisha said. "Maybe now Marcus will understand what it feels like to have his life destroyed by someone with more power." "Keisha, listen to me carefully. We can't use this information to blackmail Marcus into dropping the custody case. That would be illegal and could backfire spectacularly. Then what do we do with it?" Sarah thought for a moment. "We turn it over to the authorities. Anonymously. Let them investigate on their own." "Will that be enough to stop the custody battle?" "It might be. If Marcus is facing criminal investigation, he'll have bigger problems than fighting for custody of Zara." That afternoon, Sarah delivered the documents to the Securities and Exchange Commission and the State Attorney General's office. Within 48 hours, news broke that Sterling Financial Services was under investigation for fraudulent billing practices. The media attention was immediate and devastating. Marcus's stock price plummeted, and several major clients immediately terminated their contracts. The man who had tried to destroy Keisha's reputation was watching his own empire crumble. But Marcus wasn't giving up without a fight. If anything, the investigation seemed to make him more desperate and dangerous. "He's accelerated the custody timeline," Sarah reported during an emergency meeting. "The hearing has been moved up to next week, and he's added new claims about your mental stability. My mental stability? He's claiming that your business practices show obsessive and vindictive behavior. He's saying that a mother who would try to destroy her ex-husband's business is not fit to raise a child alone. Keisha felt a cold fury settle over her. He's the one under criminal investigation, and I'm the one who's unstable? I know it's unfair, but we need to be prepared for anything. Marcus Sterling is fighting for his life now, both personally and professionally. That makes him extremely dangerous. The custody hearing was held in a packed courtroom. Marcus's legal team had spared no expense, bringing in expert witnesses and child psychologists to testify about the importance of fathers and children's lives. Keisha sat at the defendant's table, watching Marcus's lawyers paint her as a vindictive woman who had used her child as a weapon against her ex-husband. They claimed she was obsessed with revenge and that her business success was built on stealing clients from Sterling Enterprises through unethical means. Your Honor, Marcus's lead attorney said during his opening statement, my client is a successful businessman who was denied the opportunity to know his daughter because of his ex-wife's vendetta. He is now fighting not just for his right to be a father, but to protect his child from a mother whose behavior has become increasingly erratic and obsessive. When it was Sarah's turn, she stood with quiet confidence. Your Honor, the evidence will show that Marcus Sterling abandoned his wife when she was pregnant, refused all attempts at communication, and only became interested in his daughter when his ex-wife's success began to threaten his ego. This is not about a father's rights. This is about a powerful man trying to control a woman who dared to succeed without him. The first day of testimony was brutal. Marcus's team called witness after witness to testify about Keisha's aggressive business tactics and her supposed obsession with destroying Sterling Enterprises. But on the second day, Sarah began her counterattack. Mr. Sterling, she said during cross-examination, you claim you want to be involved in your daughter's life. How many times have you attempted to see her since learning of her existence? I filed for custody immediately, Marcus replied. That's not what I asked. How many times have you attempted to visit Zara or spend time with her outside of this legal proceeding? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Her mother won't allow it. Have you asked? Have you called Ms. Williams and requested a meeting with your daughter? No, but have you sent birthday gifts? Christmas presents? Cards or letters? No. Have you attempted to provide any financial support for Zara's care in the past 3 years? I didn't know she existed. But you've known for 4 months now. Have you sent any money for her support since then? Marcus's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. It was clear that Marcus's interest in Zara was more about control than genuine paternal affection. On the third day, the prosecutor handling the Sterling Financial Services investigation testified about the scope of the fraud case. While they couldn't discuss details of the ongoing investigation, they confirmed that multiple felony charges were being considered. Your Honor, Sarah said in her closing argument, Mr. Sterling wants this court to believe he's a devoted father who was kept from his child. But the evidence shows a pattern of abandonment, neglect, and now criminal behavior. Zara Williams has thrived in her mother's care. She is loved, supported, and provided for. Why would this court disrupt a happy, stable home to satisfy the ego of a man who is facing potential criminal charges? The judge took a week to make his decision. During that week, Keisha barely slept, barely ate, and could hardly focus on anything except the possibility of losing Zara. When they returned to court for the decision, Keisha's hands were shaking as she stood to hear the judge's ruling. After careful consideration of all the evidence, Judge Martinez said, I find that the petitioner has failed to demonstrate that a change in custody would be in the best interests of the child. The petition for joint custody is denied. Keisha felt her legs give out with relief. Sarah caught her arm and helped her stay standing. However, the judge continued, the court does find that the petitioner has a right to supervised visitation with his daughter, pending the resolution of any criminal proceedings. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was enough. Zara would stay with Keisha, and Marcus would only be allowed supervised visits that Keisha could control. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions at both parties. Marcus looked defeated and angry, his legal team hustling him toward a waiting car. Ms. Williams, how do you feel about the judge's decision? A reporter called out. Keisha paused, looking directly into the camera. I feel like justice has been served. My daughter will remain in a loving, stable home where she's always been wanted and cared for. That evening, Keisha held Zara on their couch, reading her favorite bedtime story. For the first time in months, she felt peace. Mama won? Zara asked, not really understanding what had happened but sensing that the tension in the house had lifted. Yes, baby girl. Mama won. But even as she celebrated the victory, Keisha knew this was just the beginning. Marcus Sterling was facing criminal charges, his business empire was crumbling, and his reputation was in ruins. A man with nothing left to lose was the most dangerous kind of enemy. The war was far from over. 6 months after the custody hearing, Marcus Sterling's world had completely collapsed. The criminal investigation had revealed years of systematic fraud at Sterling Financial Services, resulting in federal charges and a scandal that destroyed his reputation. His engagement to Victoria had ended when she realized he was about to lose everything. His business empire was being dismantled by prosecutors and creditors. Keisha, meanwhile, had never been more successful. Williams Digital Marketing had become the largest independent marketing firm in the region, with offices in 5 cities and contracts with dozens of major corporations. The publicity from the custody battle, rather than hurting her business, had actually helped it grow as people admired her determination and success. "You're officially the most powerful businesswoman in the city," Robert Kim told her during their quarterly review meeting. "Your company is valued at over $50 million, and you personally are worth about $35 million. Keisha looked out the window of her corner office at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably in another lawyer's office, trying to figure out how to avoid prison time. "I want to make an offer," she said suddenly. "What kind of offer?" "I want to buy Sterling Enterprises." Robert nearly choked on his coffee. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. Marcus is desperate for cash to pay his legal bills and settle the fraud claims. The company is worth a fraction of what it used to be. This might be our chance to acquire a major competitor at a bargain price." "Keisha, that's brilliant, but it's also incredibly risky. Sterling Enterprises is toxic right now. Their reputation is destroyed. Reputations can be rebuilt. The company has good bones, solid infrastructure, valuable contracts, experienced employees. Under new management, it could be profitable again." "You want to buy your ex-husband's company out from under him?" Keisha smiled. "I want to save a good company from his bad management. If that happens to be poetic justice, well, that's just a bonus." The acquisition negotiations took 3 months. Marcus's lawyers tried to block the sale, but he was in no position to be picky about buyers. He needed cash immediately, and Keisha was offering a fair price for a company that was hemorrhaging money and clients. The day the sale was finalized, Keisha stood in the lobby of what had once been Sterling Enterprises and was now Williams Digital Holdings. The building where she had once been escorted out by security guards was now hers. "This is surreal," Lisa said, standing beside her. 3 years ago he threw you out of this building. Now you own it." "It's not about ownership," Keisha replied. "It's about justice. The employees here deserve better leadership. The clients deserve better service. And Zara deserves to inherit something substantial." The transition was surprisingly smooth. Most of Sterling's employees were relieved to have stable leadership again, and many of the clients who had left during the scandal agreed to return under Keisha's management. But Marcus himself was not handling the loss well. He had been calling Keisha's office repeatedly, demanding meetings and making threats. His supervised visitation with Zara had been suspended after he showed up to one session clearly intoxicated and became belligerent with the court-appointed monitor. "He's unraveling," Sarah warned during one of their regular check-ins. "Men like Marcus Sterling don't handle powerlessness well. You need to be careful." "I'm always careful. I have excellent security, and Zara is never alone. I'm not just talking about physical safety. He might try other ways to hurt you." Sarah's warning proved prophetic. A week later, Keisha arrived at work to find her office ransacked. Nothing had been stolen, but files were scattered, furniture was overturned, and someone had spray-painted "thief" across her desk. Security footage showed a figure in dark clothing and a baseball cap entering the building after hours, but the face wasn't clearly visible. The police investigation yielded no concrete evidence, but everyone knew who was responsible. "That's it," Keisha told her head of security. "I want protection for Zara around the clock. And I want Marcus Sterling watched. Ms. Williams, that could be seen as harassment. I don't care how it's seen. My daughter's safety is more important than legal niceties." The final confrontation came on a rainy Thursday evening. Keisha was working late in her office, reviewing contracts for a major new client, when her security team called. "Ms. Williams, we have a situation. Marcus Sterling is in the building. He got past lobby security somehow." Keisha's blood went cold. "Where is he?" "Heading up to your floor. Police are on the way, but..." The line went dead. Keisha quickly called Lisa, who was at home with Zara. "Lisa, take Zara and go to your mother's house. Now." Don't ask questions, just go. She hung up and locked her office door, then called 911. But before the operator could answer, she heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Keisha. Marcus's voice was slurred with alcohol. I know you're in there. She could hear him trying door handles, getting closer to her office. Her heart was pounding, but she forced herself to stay calm. Keisha, you destroyed my life. You took everything from me. The door handle to her office rattled. Then there was a loud bang as he threw his weight against the door. You think you won? Marcus shouted through the door. You think you're so smart? I'll make sure you lose everything just like I did. Keisha pressed herself against the wall beside the door, holding her phone like a lifeline. The 911 operator was trying to get information from her, but she could barely speak. Another bang against the door, and this time she heard wood splintering. Then suddenly there were other voices in the hallway. Security guards and then police officers. She heard Marcus shouting, then sounds of a struggle. Ma'am, this is Officer Rodriguez. Are you okay in there? Keisha unlocked the door with shaking hands. Outside, Marcus was on his knees in handcuffs, ranting about injustice and revenge. He looked nothing like the powerful businessman she had once been married to. His hair was disheveled, his expensive suit was wrinkled and stained, and his eyes had the wild look of someone who had lost everything and had nothing left to lose. You did this to me, he screamed at Keisha as the officers prepared to take him away. You destroyed me. No, Marcus, Keisha said quietly. You did this to yourself. I just refused to let you destroy me too. As the police led Marcus away, Keisha sank into her chair and finally allowed herself to cry. Not from fear or sadness, but from relief. It was over. The man who had tried to control and destroy her was finally gone from her life. Later that evening, safe at Lisa's mother's house with Zara sleeping peacefully in her arms, Keisha reflected on everything that had happened. She had started this journey as a broken, pregnant woman with nothing. Now she was a powerful businesswoman, a loving mother, and the owner of an empire built on her own terms. Mama? Zara stirred in her arms. Yes, baby girl? Are we safe now? Keisha looked down at her daughter's trusting face. Yes, sweetheart. We're safe now. And we always will be. 1 year later, Keisha stood at the podium of the Grand Ballroom in the city's most prestigious hotel, looking out at an audience of 500 business leaders, journalists, and community members. She was being honored as Business Person of the Year, an award that came with a crystal trophy and recognition from the mayor's office. 5 years ago, she began her acceptance speech, I was a single mother with nothing but determination and a dream. Today, Williams Digital Holdings employs over 300 people and has annual revenues exceeding $100 million. The audience applauded, but Keisha held up her hand for quiet. But success isn't just about money or recognition. True success is about overcoming obstacles, protecting the people you love, and building something that will last. True success is about proving that your worth isn't determined by what others think of you, but by what you accomplish through your own efforts. In the audience, Lisa was wiping away tears of pride. Robert Kim was beaming like a proud father. And in the front row, Zara, now 4 years old and dressed in a beautiful pink dress, was clapping enthusiastically for her mama. After the ceremony, Keisha mingled with the other guests, accepting congratulations and discussing business opportunities. Williams Digital Holdings had become more than just a success story. It was an inspiration to entrepreneurs everywhere, particularly women who had faced discrimination or abandonment. Ms. Williams, a young reporter approached her. Can you comment on the news about Marcus Sterling? Keisha had been expecting this question. Earlier that week, Marcus had been sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for fraud, money laundering, and tax evasion. His entire business empire had been liquidated to pay restitution to the victims of his crimes. I think justice has been served, Keisha said simply. Mr. Sterling made choices that hurt many people, including his own employees and clients. I'm glad that those who were victimized will receive some compensation. Do you feel vindicated by his downfall? Keisha considered the question carefully. I don't take pleasure in anyone's suffering. But I do believe that actions have consequences. Mr. Sterling chose to prioritize his ego and his greed over integrity and responsibility. The justice system held him accountable for those choices. Later that evening, after the reception had ended and Zara was asleep in their luxurious penthouse apartment, Keisha sat on her balcony overlooking the city lights. She thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment, the pain, the struggle, the small victories that had built into something extraordinary. Her phone buzzed with a text message. For a moment, her heart skipped a beat, remembering the threatening messages Marcus used to send. But this message was from Sarah Martinez. Saw the news coverage of your award. So proud of what you've accomplished. By the way, Marcus's parental rights were officially terminated today. He signed the papers from prison. You and Zara are truly free now. Keisha read the message twice, letting the reality sink in. Marcus Sterling was no longer legally Zara's father. The man who had abandoned them both and then tried to use his daughter as a weapon in his war against Keisha was finally, completely out of their lives. She walked into Zara's room and stood beside her daughter's bed, watching her sleep peacefully. Zara had grown into a confident, intelligent little girl who knew she was loved unconditionally. She would grow up in a world of opportunity, surrounded by strong role models and unlimited possibilities. You'll never have to wonder if you're worthy of love, baby girl, Keisha whispered. You'll never have to prove your value to anyone. And you'll never have to depend on someone else for your happiness or security. The next morning brought news that surprised even Keisha. Victoria Hamilton, Marcus's former fiancée, had requested a meeting. They met at the same cafe where Keisha had confronted Marcus years earlier. Victoria looked different. Less polished, more genuine. The designer clothes and perfect makeup had been replaced by simple jeans and minimal cosmetics. I owe you an apology, Victoria said without preamble. I knew Marcus was lying about you during our relationship. I knew he was painting you as something you weren't, but I chose to believe him because it was convenient. Keisha studied the woman across from her. Why are you telling me this now? Because I've spent the last year in therapy, trying to understand how I became the kind of person who would help destroy an innocent woman's reputation. Marcus manipulated me, but I let him. I was so eager to be with a powerful man that I didn't care who got hurt. What do you want from me, Victoria? Nothing. I don't want your forgiveness or your friendship. I just wanted you to know that I know the truth now. Marcus Sterling is a narcissist who destroys everything he touches. You escaped him and built something beautiful. I admire that. Victoria stood to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm glad you won. The world needs more women like you and fewer men like him. After Victoria left, Keisha sat alone at the cafe thinking about forgiveness and growth. She realized that her anger toward Marcus, and even toward Victoria, had faded into something closer to pity. They had both chosen easy paths that led to destruction, while she had chosen the difficult path that led to strength. That afternoon, Keisha made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. She announced that Williams Digital Holdings would be establishing a foundation to help single mothers start their own businesses. The Zara Williams Foundation, she told the press conference, will provide grants, mentorship and resources to women who want to build something for themselves and their children. Because every woman deserves the chance to prove that she's capable of extraordinary things. Lisa raised her hand from the audience. Why name it after Zara instead of yourself? Keisha smiled. Because this foundation isn't about me. It's about the future. It's about making sure that my daughter and daughters like her grow up in a world where women support each other instead of tearing each other down. The foundation launched 6 months later with an initial endowment of $10 million. The first grant recipients were 12 single mothers from diverse backgrounds, each with a business plan and the determination to succeed. At the foundation's launch event, Keisha was approached by a young woman named Angela who reminded her of herself years earlier, young, scared, but determined. Ms. Williams, Angela said, I just wanted to thank you. Your story gave me hope when I didn't think I had any options left. What's your situation? Keisha asked. My boyfriend left when I got pregnant. I'm working 2 jobs and trying to finish my business degree at night. I want to start a catering company, but I don't have any startup money. Keisha saw herself in Angela's eyes, the fear, the determination, the desperate hope for a better future. Tell me about your business plan, Keisha said. 2 hours later, Angela walked away with not just a foundation grant, but personal mentorship from Keisha herself. It was the beginning of what would become a tradition. Keisha personally mentoring at least one foundation recipient each year. As the years passed, the Zara Williams Foundation helped launch over 100 successful businesses. Some recipients became millionaires themselves. Others built modest but sustainable companies that supported their families and communities. All of them proved that with opportunity and support, women could overcome any obstacle. Zara grew up attending foundation events, seeing her mother's work firsthand. She learned that success wasn't just about making money, it was about lifting others up and creating opportunities for people who had been overlooked or abandoned. On Zara's 10th birthday, Keisha gave her daughter a special gift, a share in Williams Digital Holdings and a seat on the foundation's junior advisory board. "This is yours now too, baby girl," Keisha said. "Not because you're my daughter, but because you've earned it by showing compassion, intelligence, and leadership." Zara looked at the certificate with wide eyes. "Mama, does this mean I'm responsible for helping other people?" "Yes, sweetheart. With power comes responsibility. We use our success to make the world better for others." That evening, as they celebrated Zara's birthday with Lisa and the extended family they had built over the years, Keisha reflected on how completely her life had transformed. She had started as a victim of someone else's cruelty and had become a source of strength and opportunity for others. Marcus Sterling was serving his prison sentence in a minimum security facility, largely forgotten by the business world that had once celebrated him. His empire had been dismantled, his reputation destroyed, his legacy reduced to a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked greed and narcissism. But Keisha's legacy was still being written. Every business that succeeded because of foundation support, every woman who found the courage to leave an abusive relationship because of Keisha's example, every child who grew up knowing their mother was strong and capable. These were the true measures of her success. As she tucked Zara into bed that night, her daughter asked the question that had been coming more frequently as she got older. "Mama, will you ever tell me about my father?" Keisha had been preparing for this conversation for years. She sat on the edge of Zara's bed and chose her words carefully. "Your father is a man who made bad choices," she said. "He chose power over love, money over family, and ego over integrity. Those choices led him down a dark path that hurt many people, including us. Do I look like him? You have his eyes and his stubborn chin. But everything important about you, your kindness, your intelligence, your strength, those come from you. You are not defined by your father's failures any more than you're defined by my successes. You are your own person capable of amazing things. Will I ever meet him?" Keisha paused. Marcus would be eligible for parole in 2 years, though she doubted he would be released early given his lack of remorse and continued legal troubles. "Maybe someday if you choose to and if it's safe. But remember, sweetheart, being a parent isn't about biology. It's about love, support, and commitment. The people who have raised you, who have been there for every important moment, who have celebrated your victories and comforted you through difficulties, those are your real family." Zara nodded solemnly. "Like you and Aunt Lisa and Uncle Robert and everyone at the foundation?" "Exactly like that." As Keisha turned off the bedroom light, she felt a deep sense of peace. She had not just survived Marcus Sterling's attempt to destroy her. She had thrived beyond anything he could have imagined. She had built an empire not through cruelty or manipulation, but through hard work, integrity, and genuine care for others. The girl who had once been thrown away like garbage had become a woman who created opportunities for others. The victim had become a victor, not through revenge but through resilience. And most importantly, the daughter she had protected and nurtured was growing into exactly the kind of person the world needed more of: strong, compassionate, and determined to make a difference. Justice, Keisha realized, wasn't about punishment. It was about proving that goodness could triumph over cruelty, that integrity could defeat corruption, and that love could overcome hate. Standing in her daughter's doorway, watching Zara sleep peacefully in the beautiful life they had built together, Keisha knew that justice had been served in the most complete way possible.